Stephen Hannley.
Adam Beck.
What are we doing here today?
We're talking about Uncharted.
Uncharted Nathan Drake collection for
The
PlayStation
Nathan Drake.
4.
That's right.
You got to play it.
I did get to play it. Quite a bit of it. It's 3 games in one, in fact, so it's like I played 3 different games in one.
What has changed? What's new in that?
There's not a whole lot new, and I think that's kind of the biggest problem with the collection. And I guess we'll start off with what's wrong with it in our conversation. But we were talking pretty in depth last year about the Master Chief Collection on Xbox, which had just an amazing amount of changes to it. I mean, you had Blur come in and do the cutscenes. You had filters that you could change between how it originally looked and how the updated version looked. And then even just last month, we had Gears of War remastered, and that, I mean, they just pretty much changed the entire look of the game. It's like they just totally rebuilt it. And that was a last gen game, and these are last gen games too. But with the Uncharted games, you have basically the same exact games, just rezzed up for the PS4. I mean, it's funny because Gears of War was kind of like the pinnacle of visuals for consoles when it came out. But Uncharted, it did really everything it should have done as far as the visual palette goes, right? I mean, Gears of War, looking back, it was just way too murky. It had just way too much jaggedy edges around the textures. But you look at Uncharted, I think more talking about Drake's Fortune, which came out in 2007, and that game was stunning for its time, and it still looks good. It still holds up. And so there's just really not, you don't really want to change too much, right? Because it was really lush and detailed back then. So really, all you want to do is just, change the textures when you can, make things less jaggy. But, your lighting's going to be the same. The cutscenes are not going to really change much. So to be fair, the developer, Bluepoint, who did these ports, there's just really not a lot they can do. I mean, as far as what's new, you have some new skins. You can play as... What is it? It's Elena, right? Is that how you say it?
Yep.
You can play as Sully. I mean, you're technically Nathan, but you got their skin over you, which is kind of creepy, I guess. Actually, kind of some Silence of the Lambs.
Over your body.
Yeah, it puts the lush on the skin, right? But yeah, you got, I think, what is it? 60 new skins somewhere. You got a lot of new skins. There's a new difficulty mode.
How does that play?
It's crazy hard. You got to be crushing difficulty to unlock it, and crushing is crazy hard. So I mean, it's pretty much like a one-hit kill kind of a thing. And this is one of those games where you can't really bide your time and cover too much because the AI is pretty intelligent, right? Like The Last of Us. So even if you're hiding back, they're gonna sneak. They're gonna come up on you and charge you. They're not just gonna wait for you. So it's a hard game to really kind of chill, hang back and pick the enemies off. So that's cool to have that mode. I don't honestly know how many people are going to be able to handle it. I mean, even true hardcore gamers, it's going to be really difficult. But it's nice to have. I feel like it's going to be one of those things that people will break out when they have friends over and challenge each other to get whoever can get the farthest or whatever. And speaking of that, the other new mode is the speedrun mode. And I think it's called, I can't remember if it's called continuous play or speedrun, but it's basically just a straight up get through the Uncharted games as fast as you can. There's not really much change in it. The only really difference is that there's a timer now, and you can compare your time with friends online, and that's kind of cool. Especially for people, and there's definitely PlayStation fanboys who have played through these games a million times, right? So that's really cool that you can just challenge each other and see live how well you're getting through the levels.
Mm-hmm, for sure. They've added these new modes. I heard they added like photo mode. Did they bring any of the gameplay enhancements from like the third game or second game to the past games?
Yeah, they did. Not a whole lot. I mean, we're dealing with a game that the gameplay hasn't, or a series I should say, that the gameplay hasn't really evolved too much throughout, at least up until Uncharted 4. But the draw distance has been improved. Especially for Drake's Fortune, and then there's a different grenade arc in Drake's Fortune that was introduced later on.
I think the original game it forced you to use the 6-axis.
That's right, which was so stupid. That was back
a great choice.
It was not a great choice. That was back when Sony was going through that era of like, okay, we designed a motion controller that no one really wants, but let's just have them use it. I feel like with the DualShock 4, they're like, okay, they added the light bar as their cool new feature, And then pretty early on, they realized, okay, this was a bad idea. No one wants to use it, so they just stopped, really caring about it. But there was like a good 2 or 3 years there where Sony was really pushing those DualShock functionality that no one wanted, no one ever wanted.
You talked about like graphical enhancements with the draw distance. What else has changed? I know there's like 60 frames a second. Is there better textures? What are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean the game looks really sharp. I don't think they look as good. It's just something about when I played God of War 3, it just really seemed like it was a game made for PlayStation 4. And I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just, God of War 3 has always just been a fantastic looking game. Just larger than life bosses and huge environments. So maybe that just is, it seems like a current gen game, so it makes the jump better. But I mean, the 3 Uncharted games, they look like PS4 games. They look like, first party. But I wouldn't go as far as saying like if someone just turned it on and they said, "Oh, this is Uncharted 4," I wouldn't believe that. You know what I mean? Whereas if someone turned on God of War 3 HD and they said, "Oh, this is God of War 4," if I hadn't played it before, of course, I'd probably say, "Okay, yeah, that looks great." So, again, I think they've done the best they can. All 3 games already look great, so the jump isn't as noticeable. But yeah, they run like butter. They're smooth. There's no screen tearing. They said they target 60 FPS. I've never seen any dips. I mean, even in the Uncharted 2 train level, we got that train speeding down, or the Uncharted 3 cargo plane fight. It holds up with a lot of action on the screen, and it looks shiny. There you go.
That's impressive. Like, are you still, like, I know there's a lot of people who like can't really tell the difference between 60 frames a second and 30 frames a second. Are you one of those people, or are you like, can you instantly recognize what 60 frames is and what it does?
I'm someone who, when we're talking about, comparing to, I guess in this case I'd call it a past format, even though it's not a format but a feature. When someone puts on a DVD instead of a Blu-ray, right? I'm instantly, okay, I can tell that's a Blu-ray, right? Or when someone puts on 4K versus a Blu-ray, I can say, okay, that's 4K. 60 frames versus 30 frames is a little bit different. It's 30 frames is still really smooth. I would say like if a modern day current gen game was 1080p 30 frames per second, I probably wouldn't be like, oh, this game doesn't look right. It probably seemed fine. But when there's just something about when a game's running in 60 frames per second, you just kind of get this like. It's hard to identify what the feeling is, but it just feels like alive and just really kind of, gets that extra oomph and comes to life even more.
What do you think of the games? Like, what's your favorite overall?
I mean, Uncharted 2 is the best. I don't think there's really much debate in that.
Yeah, right on.
It's just, what's cool about Uncharted 2 is it's just like a one long action climax almost. Okay, besides the stupid stealth at the beginning, which is just, oh my god, it feels like I'm playing Vampire Rain. All over again, but I don't get the point of that either because there's just so little stealth, especially when you get into the later levels.
Barely any.
No, yeah, I think literally it like starts off all stealth, and then you get to the first jungle level, and it has a little bit of stealth, and then just no stealth, just gone, just out of the game.
Yep.
But yeah, so that it starts off with a whimper, ends with a bang. You have so many good set pieces. I mean, it feels like a big budget movie. It feels like they're like, okay, what do we want to design this game around? And they came up with some really cool action sequences, and then they kind of filled in the rest. And what separates a good blockbuster and a bad blockbuster is the rest. Is do the quiet, smaller, more intimate parts hold up? And they do. The story is pretty derivative, but it's very entertaining and it's concise, and it's not convoluted at all. So it's very easy to follow. Nathan's very charming. But I have a soft spot, I must admit, for Uncharted 3. I know that's kind of the black sheep of the series for a lot of fans. But first of all, I'm a sucker for any sort of desert environment. I'm a big fan of.
You are from Arizona.
Yeah, I'm from the desert, so I guess it's in my heart, and I love any movies based in the desert. Lawrence of Arabia is one of my favorites of all time, and Uncharted 3 is just so heavily influenced. I mean, there's a lot of shots, especially in the cutscenes that are almost directly lifted from that movie. So I really like that aspect of it, and I really like the narrative of it. I like that, Uncharted 1, you have Nathan chilling, and then all of a sudden he gets attacked and has to go on an adventure. Uncharted 2, you have Nathan chilling at a bar, and then he gets attacked and he has to go on an adventure, and it just kind of, starts with a bang, and, boom, boom, boom. Uncharted 3 I like because it starts with a bang, yes, with a bunch of Jason Stathams trying to kill you. But then
clones.
Yeah, that was strange. Are they actually, did they ever explain that? I don't...
They're just a bunch of British chaps.
It's weird how they all look alike. I feel like that's partly racist almost, but I don't know. That's a weird scene. But yeah, it starts off with a bang or with a toilet smash or whatever you want to call it, and then it slows down. You get to play as Drake as a kid. You get to see a lot of origins with Sully. And I really like that. I feel like it feels more true to a blockbuster. You have a lot of blockbusters. You do have narratives that jump around in time, and I really like the story. I feel like it's more grounded. Gameplay wise, it doesn't hold up to Uncharted 2. There's too many sequences that are slow, but the big brash sequences are great. Uncharted 1, or Drake's Fortune, or DF as some people refer to it as, holds up the weakest. It feels like a second-rate Tomb Raider at this point, because that's really what it was. Honestly, it was a kind of a takeoff of Tomb Raider. It was a guy going into tombs and exploring them and raiding them. But
I was gonna ask, like, this is an 4-year-old game at this point.
Yeah, it's old.
Do they still hold up in 2015 in terms of like gameplay elements and scenarios?
They do and they don't. It's like, are these games still objectively great? Yes. If they came out today, would we be kind on them? Probably not. I mean, you look at Uncharted 2, right? And that has like a 96 Metascore or something ridiculous. And I feel like if that game came out today, you'd probably be looking at about a 77. Let's be honest. It's just because, I mean, this is a rapidly advancing and changing industry, and third person shooting has really quickly grown stale. You look at The Order, and that game was just felt generic and boring and overwrought. But they're still great games. Maybe that was a little bit too harsh. I think Uncharted 2 would still score in the 80s, but it wouldn't be, I think a lot of people consider it one of the best action games of all time. And I think what makes it so good, because the gunplay is very generic. It's just third-person shooting. But what makes it so good is the pacing, the set pieces, the way what the shooting's designed around. And I feel the same way actually for The Last of Us. Even when The Last of Us came out, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. And that was because I felt the gunplay was just, it felt like Uncharted. Everything else was just phenomenal. But the actual, when it comes, the core shooting of the game didn't feel that unique. And I think that's always been a problem with Naughty Dog. So I think, in this world where you have just so many, not only indie games, right, but you have AAA games innovating, it's really hard to say, to play a kind of a straightforward third-person shooter and say, yeah, this game is still, this game is one of the best games of all time. So do they hold up today? Yeah, absolutely. Will they always hold up? Absolutely. Are they, the end-all best action third-person shooting games that a lot of people have claimed they are now? Probably not. I don't think any of the Uncharted games now are as good as a Tomb Raider reboot, and even that was like 2013. So we're not jumping that much forward in time.
So what's your final verdict on this? I mean, you played for a good week, 2 weeks now. How have you enjoyed it overall?
Yeah, so I mean, I gave the game the collection of 4.5, which is quite high, and that might seem kind of high versus what I just said, right? But again, it's 3 games that are great, and it's hard to dispute that. If you were to review each game individually, I think they'd score around there. And the port, there's nothing to complain about. It's one of those kind of things where you wish there would have been more, but there just really couldn't have been. I don't know what they could have done, added other level. I don't really know what they could have done, honestly, other what they did. So it's one of those games, right, where just. It's what do you say bad about it? It's just it comes down to what's your opinion of the actual games. But I think that for $60, you got 3 great games that look great on PS4, and it's one of those things that I think you just want to have on your shelf. I mean, these games like it or not, are classics, and they're going to stay classics. And I don't think they're ever going to get ported again. PS5, will we see these games again? Probably not, honestly. Because again, what more do you do with them? And I don't know what. I mean, just 4K. I don't really know what else you could do with them.
120 hertz.
Yeah, it'd just be nonsense. So this is probably the best the games, or the best you're gonna want them to look. After this, it's gonna be a little questionable. So I think it's a game you want to get on your shelf, and it's a game you want to get on your shelf before Uncharted 4, because that's a game that everybody is going to probably play who has a PS4. It's being hyped up to the hills, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's a solid buy. It really is.
So yeah, the Uncharted collection, Nathan Drake collection, will be out October 9th for PlayStation 4. But until then, you can read Steve's review on hardcoregamer.com.
Cool.